Welcome back to Second Helping, the show of choice for fans and followers of the number one league in all of collegiate athletics, the Southeastern Conference. Travis Reier alongside my great friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Beaird, longtime college football analyst for, among others, First Coast News down in Jacksonville, Florida. Brent, of course, also a voter for the most prestigious individual honor in all of college football, the Heisman Trophy. And Brent, we are headed into second scrimmages around the Southeastern Conference, and that means we are oh so close to real, actual college football being played in great venues and on our 85-inch high-def televisions, by the way, in the very, very near future.
Yeah, well, we're only basically a few days away from week zero games, Florida State and Georgia Tech, and a rare conference game. That's noon on ESPN. And then SMU at Nevada, another ACC team now, but we need to remember that. Brother Brent, my twin, who's up in Florence, Alabama, they actually have a game next Saturday night on ESPN at 7 o'clock, which is a wonder for them to be able to have that
UNA,
much.
right? That's
Yeah, oh,
UNA,
yeah, UNA, that
North Alabama,
publicity.
the Lions.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And Trevor, Delaware State and Hawaii around midnight. Oh, I'm guessing you probably. I know you've seen a few of those Hawaii midnight games in the past.
Yeah, a year ago, when our oldest daughter was the director of recruiting for the Rainbow Warriors, I would have stayed up for that one from start to finish. I don't
Yeah.
have to this year.
No.
Very thankful for her alma mater. It's been great to her throughout the years, but I
Yes.
will probably check that one Sunday morning
I
on the
understand.
timeline. That's probably
Yes.
how I'll get that information. But yeah, it's exciting. There's no doubt about it. It's also exciting that, again, in the Southeastern Conference, you've got some very important scrimmage work coming up in the
Mhm.
next few days in terms of setting rosters and defining those top 40 to 50 guys that you
That's
expect are
right.
going to impact your team, at least during the early stages of the 2024 season. We're going to get into some of that notebook that we love from Brent Beaird coming up later in the program. But, Brent, what I wanted to do to get us going today is sort of a good news, bad news look at 4 or 5 of the prominent programs in the Southeastern Conference. I mean, they all are these days, it seems like. But I've selected 5 teams that we'll take this approach with. And we are going to start with the Longhorns of Texas, because that was the first real seismic news, it felt like, Brent, from an
Yes.
injury perspective, with
Yes.
CJ Baxter, the outstanding running back, going down for the season. And then after that, a depth provider and Christian Clark goes out with an Achilles, I guess it was. It's easy to start with the bad news, I guess, for this Texas team.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, and again, Travis, one thing to have an ACL, Christian Clark tore an Achilles.
Yeah.
So, man, that makes it even tougher with that situation. Now, I don't think people can feel too sorry for Texas, but Sark says they're down to 3 scholarship running backs. Jaden Blue is one of those guys. Wisner is another that they like, and they've got a freshman in Jerry Gibson. But look, Trav, I don't care who you are, and they're going to find this out. And you and I have talked about this for about 30 years. You can't have enough running backs in this league, can you?
And especially an offense like Texas's. And you can talk about, well, you got Quinn Ewers, you still got these receivers that are emerging, going to be quarterback centric more so this year than they've been even in previous years.
Mm-hmm.
But Sark likes to make good use of his backs.
He
And
does.
so 5 sounds like a lot to start, but when you lose 2 before mid-August rolls around, that's a tough place to be
It
with
is.
another 3 or 4 months to go. So yeah, it's problematic, no doubt about it. Not just because you lose your top guy in Baxter, but a depth provider potentially in Clark as well. Now, Blue is a guy going into his 3rd year. He has 23 games of experience, so he
Yeah.
should be able to take on all the responsibilities that come with playing in an offense that, again, is running back friendly, if not running back centric. And
Sure.
also, more good news, I think, for Texas. The depth, obviously, is the biggest problem. But even with Xavier Worthy moving on, A.D. Mitchell moving on, Jordan Whittington moving on, Jatavian Sanders moving on, Jonathan Brooks now in the NFL, there's still plenty of skill talent around Quinn Ewers. It sounds like this true freshman wide receiver, Ryan Wingo, is going to be an impact guy.
Yeah.
You bring in Isaiah Bond from Alabama. Amari Nyblack comes in at tight end from Alabama. So, again, not good where the running back situation is concerned as far as depth goes, but just in terms of potential playmakers around Quinn Ewers, still a pretty good situation.
And Trent, one thing that we both know how creative Sark is. I'm just wondering, as you mentioned, Isaiah Bond, who I understand may be clearly the number one guy, and then also Jonte Cook, DeAndre Moore, Matthew Golden. Trav, Sark's smart enough to where he could get these wide receivers into a situation with some jet sweeps where they could get some running back yards, couldn't they?
Oh, they can. And Sark is very good, absolutely, in that quick game, which are essentially runs that are the quick passes, the screens, throwbacks, things like that are right up Sark's alley. And this stuff is happening early enough that you're able to kind of adjust and adapt to maybe Blue being a different kind of guy than Baxter. So you can do what you need to do in that regard as far as matching up your personnel with your concepts. But yeah, it is certainly a good news, bad news situation in Austin right now. Let's talk about the Auburn Tigers next, Brent. I think the good news for this team, especially after a year ago when it was essentially anemic as far as receivers go, these young receivers, man, not just Cam Coleman either, but Bryce Kane, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, it sounds like they're all getting the job done, and each and every one of them, perhaps with an emphasis on Simmons and Coleman, Thompson too, are going to have a chance to impact that offense significantly from the outset.
Well, and how much is this going to help Payton Thorne to have guys that he can really depend on? Now, look, they're young, they're going to make some mistakes, but these are guys that they've got the speed and, frankly, when I understand Trav, the hands also to be able to compensate for some of this situation. The thing that's really kind of caught my eye too, and I'm sure it has yours, is some of these younger guys on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a 5-star in Amarius Williams, who they really like as an edge rusher, and Malik Blockton is another guy, 6'3", 291. I mean, he's got the size of an SEC defensive lineman who is coming around. And people may not know this yet, but or have forgotten about that. But one DJ Durkin-Trav, who's been in Gainesville, according to Pops too, I'm sure, with this Auburn defense. So great point. The wide receivers have gotten all the attention, but man, oh man, don't they need these defensive guys to help that side of the ball?
They do, and I think I've talked about the secondary, the concerns I have back there, but
Yes.
Bring in Jaron Thompson, a safety from Texas, that should give you some stability. Keontae Scott is a guy that they have high hopes for, whether it's on the outside and can also play inside as well. You got a former Alabama defensive back, couple of them now, actually, Antonio Kite in that mix back there. Just a lot of questions to answer. I do agree on the front seven. That has been a concern for me, but I'm feeling better about that. Jalen McLeod returns on an edge. You bring in Keon Crawford from Arkansas State to help with that. Keldrick Falk is a young player that they're very, very high on. So, I worried a little bit about Marcus Harris moving on to the National Football League. He led Auburn in sacks a year ago. But the more I hear coming out of the Plains and kind of what you're picking up from some of the comments from positional coaches, especially, you feel a little bit better for sure. I think skill talent in general is going to be a strength. It's going to prove to be a strength for Auburn because, Jarquez Hunter at the running back position. But, they've got some other guys, Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb is a guy that I know there are high hopes for. So That all points back, though, to the quarterback position. And
It does.
even with all of this positive buzz about these additions at the skill spots, you still hear just enough of, well, we'll see about Payton Thorne, though. I think it's going to show up in his play, too. I think he can certainly be better, and he will with the help he's going to get from those guys.
And I tell you what, though, along with that thought, Trav, they've got to get these younger quarterbacks work, don't they?
Ideally, yes.
I think they really like Walker White. Now, I know he's kind of been with the third team, but isn't this the kind of guy to where, particularly in September, that they've got to get him some work? I know Holden Dernier is still there, but along with Thorne, and again, Hugh Freeze has that reputation of developing these quarterbacks. And look, I think that's going to be huge this year for them. They're not expected to be a playoff team necessarily, particularly with that schedule. So the more work you can get these young folks in, the better you're going to be.
Yeah, and the other side of the difficulty of that schedule once they get to about week 6 is that the first 5 weeks, especially the first 4, should give you an opportunity to really kind of figure some things out, like on the back end, and also with these younger skill players that you're going to be depending on. So I like the ramp up that Auburn is going to be afforded in a couple of these areas where there are some concerns. Let's talk about the cross-state rival of the Auburn Tigers. Let's talk Alabama Crimson Tide. The good, Brent, it sounds like the first scrimmage last Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium, followed up by a fan day practice. If you were thinking that this offense had the potential to take another step, even with all of the departures on that side of the ball under Kalen DeBoer, a lot of positivity in that regard. The offensive line, the interior is going to be a real strength. You got a couple of first-team All-American types there at guard and Tyler Booker. Parker Brailsford coming in from Washington is also being talked about in those terms. I think Jaden Roberts is another guy that could certainly fit that bill at the other guard spot. Concerns at the one tackle spot primarily. I think that's right tackle. It sounds like Wilkin Formby may have the edge right now over Elijah Pritchett. Skill talent across the board between Justice Haynes, Jam Miller, who's banged up a little bit right now. Wide receiver depth is sounding more and more like a positive. Just your thoughts on a good thing for this Alabama team right now.
Listen, I think another guy, Wilkin Formby, on that offensive line is a guy that I think they like. Look, this Cade Proctor, Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Formby, and obviously they've got some depth to go along with that. I think Alabama fans can feel in a good situation about that too. Now, obviously, Alabama has got some of their wide receivers who come along very well also, and have gotten a lot of the publicity. But the group that you've written about before that I'm really kind of interesting to see is this tight end room. I don't think that group gets enough credit, frankly, Trav, and for Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. Man, I can see them spreading this ball around, not just to these receivers deep down the field, but I think these running backs certainly can catch the ball. Justice Haynes, for instance, out of the backfield. But I really do like these tight ends. I think Dupree is a guy that could really load up this year and have a nice season.
Yeah, I think explosiveness is what you're going to expect from Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, the true freshman, Kendrick Law, Emmanuel Henderson, Kobe Prentice. I mean, there is a list of explosive guys on the outside, but certainly CJ Dupree. I think Josh Cuevas coming in from Washington could fit that bill. Certainly familiarity with this offense under Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer. So absolutely, like a lot of that to go along with those running backs. In terms of a bad thing, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just going to continue to be a big uncertainty until we actually see it play out. For me, anyway, is the secondary. And
no doubt,
with an emphasis on the perimeter D, because I think your safeties, Keon Sabb, Malachi Moore, I think played with George Teague and Antonio Langham He's been there so long
Really?
in Tuscaloosa. But on the edges with your corners, Damani Jackson, he pretty much has a season worth of starting experience previously at USC. I'd say he was solid. You certainly want to see him take another step. Xavier Brown's a freshman they really love. At the other corner, they've got 2 or 3 freshmen they really like out there. They got Deshaun Jones, the transfer from Wake Forest, to take into account there. And it's not just the corners. They've got that Husky position, so it could be another true freshman in Red Morgan. Perhaps it'll be a program veteran instead in Devontae Smith. And I even take it to those outside linebacker position, or what they call the wolf position, and Keanu Coote, Q Robinson, a second-year player, and Quay Rusal. There's talent there. I don't think there's any denying that.
Right.
But in terms of documented production at the University of Alabama, not much at all.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, to go along with what you're saying, they need help from the D line. And I understand LT Overton, the A&M transfer, is really helping them put pressure on the quarterback. Listen, one thing I wanted to ask you, and no one thought this would be an issue, and it probably won't be, but being a former kicker, Graham Nicholson comes in, the mantle of being the best kicker in the nation, replacing the best kicker in the nation. He struggled a little bit from what we understand. Trev, talk about that a little bit from the mindset that he would have. And as Nick Saban would say, you just trust your training, and after a while, it's going to work out okay.
Yeah, there's newness for him, even though he is the reigning Groza Award winner. New holder, new snapper.
Yeah.
Came in the summer. He wasn't there in the spring. So you're going to work through some of that. I think Graham Nicholson will be fine, especially when you talk about inside 50 yards.
Yes.
I think if you think it's going to be this seamless transition from Will Reichard, who's going to kick in the National Football League this year, you might be in for a surprise. Maybe Graham Nicholson exceeds even what we saw previously from Will Reichard. But I think it's a great accomplishment to be the Groza Award winner. Yeah. But I did some research on this and talked about it on one of our other programs here on the Reier on YouTube channel. You know, the last 10 Groza Award winners, only 3 are currently in the National Football League.
Wow, that's amazing.
And of the 3 kickers who were drafted in April, and Will Reichard was among those 3, none of those 3 guys ever won the Groza. So, it's one thing to replace a really good college kicker, an award-winning college kicker. It's another thing to replace a starter at that position in the National Football League, kind of like other positions. But no, I'm not worried really about Graham Nicholson. But I mean, it'll be something everybody will have their eyes on. I think actually Alabama special teams could really be the difference in 1 or 2 of these close games.
Oh, yeah.
Burnip, the punter, can really control field position for you. They've got really good return options on this roster, and they're just still talented top to bottom, and that obviously goes a long way in special teams, just like any other area. Let's talk good news, bad news with the 12th man, the Aggies of Texas A&M, Brent. And you start with the bad news, like those rival Longhorns. You start at the running back position with Rueben Owens going out for the year. A&M still has quality options. I mean, Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, you got Emmitt Smith's son, EJ, coming in as a transfer. I think they've got a freshman that could be an all-purpose guy that perhaps they could implement some there if they need to. But that's really where it starts because Owens was the guy at the top of the list.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that's tough. I mean, Owens had nearly 800 yards all-purpose. So it's tough to lose a guy like that. People may be interested in EJ Smith, the son of Emmitt. Now, look, he's not Emmitt. He doesn't pretend to be, frankly. I mean, he had 557 yards in 24 games with the Cardinal, not plural, but just the Cardinal. So that would be interesting to see kind of where that goes. Look, the big thing for them, and for our viewers, Travis and I have talked about this for a while. For whatever reason, and this really was a problem under Jimbo too, this team has struggled for years now with the offensive line. And it is, their beat writers will tell you pretty quick, Trav, it has been horrific. They are 70th or worse in sacks allowed, and that is something that. And they've got good quarterbacks, but particularly with Wigner, who is hurt, you don't want to get him hurt again. So my thing with bad news with them, and they know it, and they're working on it, and they've got talent. But man, oh man, when you've had a rough go with it with that offensive line, and Trev, there's no guarantee they fix this year.
Yeah, under Jimbo, it just seemed like A&M was perpetually in flux up front.
Yes.
It seemed like
Yes.
every year they were young or they were inexperienced.
Yeah.
And he was there long enough that you felt like at some point it would culminate in a stretch of really good offensive line play. But he kind of left Florida State in that situation. And then it seemed to follow him to College Station with the Aggies. But I do think when you talk about good things for this team, good to hear Connor Weigman progressing nicely from that injury a year ago. And I know you've been big on this with this defensive front for Texas A&M. And I think a lot of people may hear that and think, what? They lost Walter Nolan to Ole Miss. You talked about LT Overton earlier, impacting Alabama already on the Crimson Tide's defensive front. But boy, Elko went transfer portal, and Nick Scorton coming in from Purdue as a pass rusher is going to be a real problem. And then you got the two Shamars still in College Station in Stewart and Turner.
And do you feel confident, like I do, Trav, with Elko, that this defense would be solid? Yeah, Scorton has been basically unblockable. And one more guy that I'll throw in here for good news. Now, it's going to take him time to come on, but Terry Busey, who is a true freshman, a tremendous recruit from Texas. Everybody and their brother wanted him. Now he is at cornerback, but Trav, this is the kind of guy to where I wonder if they use him on special teams, because frankly, and I wonder if he'll stay at cornerback but this is a guy you kind of you need to get the ball in his hands in some creative ways.
Yeah, that was kind of the guy I was alluding to with the running back situation, because that's exactly what he looked like in high school. Now, big jump, obviously, to the Southeastern Conference, but some guys, it is translatable. Few guys, very few special guys, and he has the look of that kind of guy. So might require some creativity as the season moves along. But again, Owens is a big loss, but similar to Texas, right? Even at wide receiver and tight end, still plenty of options to go along with a guy that can deal it from the pocket in Connor Weigman. Brent, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't know. I mean, can you come up with some bad news for Georgia? I did a little research on this, and I guess there's some line of scrimmage absences that the Dawgs have been dealing with. Starting center Jared Wilson was not able to scrimmage last week, and perhaps that had something to do with an uneven at best showing from the Georgia offense in that one. You've had a couple of defensive linemen that have been out. Jordan Hall, the former 5-star defensive tackle from Jacksonville, Florida. Boy, you talk about a painful injury. Apparently, he's dealing with stress fractures in both tibias, in both legs.
Man,
Warren Brinson is an old guy, super senior that been around a long time. He hasn't been available. It seems like he's going to be okay in terms of the future, not too far down the road. We'll see about Jordan Hall. But that's about the best I could come up with was maybe some of the big guys. And none of these sound overly serious.
No. And now Kirby would tell you a different story, Trav. He said, well, we're nowhere close to being ready. We're just not there yet, but still now what he will tell you is they don't have the depth in secondary that they need. Yeah. Malachi Starks, like Malachi Moore, seemed like he's been there for a while. Dalen Everett, but look, you and I both know they've got dudes everywhere. Now they actually did have a decommitment, which probably should shock people, from Christian Garrett, offensive lineman, who may end up at Georgia Tech, by the way. Now, how often does that happen? And they've got some charges dismissed against Jacoby White, their freshman receiver. Look, you and I've said this for the last few months. They're they're worst enemies themselves, and can they be focused enough and relentless enough to where they're going to their goal of having another undefeated season? In the only way they do that is they've got to behave off the field, and I know that's something we talk about a lot. But I'm sure that coaching staff have done about everything they can do, but that's going to be important for them because they've got some huge road games coming up, or at least one every month, and this team has got to be focused.
Yeah, and this has been sort of an extended stretch of this off the field stuff, and to the credit of Kirby Smart and his staff, it doesn't seem to have affected them in
Correct.
terms of engagement or focus. They've managed to maintain that sort of bubble and that vacuum, even with everything that's come at them with the off the field issues. I'll tell you this, in terms of good news for the Georgia Bulldogs, stop me if you've heard this one before, Brent, but Georgia appears loaded at the running back position.
Yeah,
I know Trevor Etienne comes in from Florida. It sounds like Branson Robinson, the Hulk of a running back, is coming back nicely from his latest injury. Roderick Robinson II, another very physically impressive talent. And now we're hearing about this true freshman running back in Nate Frazier from Mater Dei, the program out in the Los Angeles area, showing some very, very encouraging signs early on. 5'10", about 210 pounds, has speed, short space, quickness. Again, Georgia, we've talked running back a good bit today. Not a problem for the Dogs right now.
Oh, no. Well, and what's in front of them is really important, too. I mean, this is another tremendous offensive line. They moved Tate Ratledge around a little bit because he can play just about everything. They've got a kid named Monroe Freeling, who's been at right tackle, who they like. And without going through a slew of names that our folks may not be familiar with, I think this offensive line is going to be important. And I'll tell you another important thing, too, particularly with Carson Beck in his last year. Trev, how important is it that Kirby gets these backup quarterbacks like Gunnar Stockton some play, particularly in September? I don't know if you do it during Clemson, but they got some September games where they can do that.
Yeah, and that's the luxury of that. And you're right, because this is a different animal, this regular season schedule for the Georgia Bulldogs. With the divisions going away, you're replacing some trips and some teams with teams like Texas, with Ole Miss. It's not trip to Alabama. Certainly, quarterback depth is a challenge for every team, especially these days. So you have to try to do everything you can to develop what you have without knowing how long exactly you're going to have it.
Yeah, really.
You can't think about it that way if you're Mike Bobo, no doubt about it. All right, let's keep it moving here on another edition of Second Helping. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to our channel here, we certainly hope you'll do that. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. That notification bell is how you do that. That way you'll be alerted to all of our content as it drops right here on Reier on YouTube. Something else that would help us is a thumbs up. If you hit us with a like, hit that like button. We'd appreciate that as well. Brent, it is time for some notebook. Uncle Brent going to get out his notebook. We're going to sit around and he is going to regale us with some interesting news and notes from around the Southeastern Conference. Brent, we're looking for 2 or 3 before we get out of here. So give us your best from your at this point, it's iconic, that notebook of Brent Beard's.
Well, we haven't talked about LSU, but I want to mention a couple things about them real quick. They've got Harold Perkins up to 220 pounds, who obviously is one of the better defenses in the league. But Travis, reality is he wasn't comfortable last year. They didn't really know what to do with him, which is an amazing thing to say. But they have refocused that defense. They've changed a lot of the coaches. Now, listen, this caught my eye, and I'm guessing as soon as you read it, you understood. Now, Bo Davis, both of us thinks probably the best defensive line coach in the nation, not just the SEC. Trav, Bo Davis already has 3 defensive line recruits in the 2025 class. Has he been there long enough to unpack his bags yet, Trav?
No, he's probably still like posted up at an Embassy Suites
Yeah,
somewhere in
yeah.
Red Stick,
Oh,
and
yeah.
still going to get the job done. I mean, that's going to happen, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm more interested in this group and how he's going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to piece it together for the 2024
Yes.
season. But from a recruiting
Right.
perspective, Bo at his previous stops always knocked it out of the park. So you
Oh,
expect
yeah.
that. And again, we look ahead to that opener against USC and Vegas. I think that's going to be a situation until I see it for myself, really with
Yes.
both those defenses, because SC's made a significant change at coordinator, LSU doing the same thing. I'm going into Vegas in a few weeks thinking first to 40 is the
Yeah. Yeah.
winner of that one.
Really.
I think
Oh,
that could
yeah.
be a fun shootout.
Yeah, a couple other quick notes before we go. I don't think this is a real problem yet, but Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma in the scrimmages has struggled. Now they do have some pretty good defensive players like Danny Stutzman, who picked him off with that. But Arnold had 3 turnovers early on, and I know they're quite concerned. Jaden Gibson, the wide receiver, is out for the year with a knee injury. But Trav, could you rank that up to new conference, new season, incredible amount of pressure? I still think Arnold will get the job done eventually. But as we were talking about the Alabama kickers a few minutes ago, the Oklahoma quarterbacks have struggled early too.
Yeah, I think it's more indicative of young quarterbacks in general when
Yeah,
it's their time. And in some cases, you'll see a young quarterback try to just do too much rather than kind of facilitate things.
sure, sure.
And it was sort of what we saw from him, Jackson Arnold, in that bowl game loss
Yeah, yeah, good
in the
point.
Alamo Bowl. You saw some really high
Mhm.
highs, and then you saw some turnovers that were a big time issue. So I still think Jackson Arnold will be fine. You also have as you've talked about here, a totally revamped offensive line in front of him. Um, but I think this is even more reason why going into the season, you lean on the run game and Gavin Sawchuk and those
Yes.
guys. If that's what you need to do to try to make sure because we talked about it, Tulane, Houston,
Mhm.
and the non-con, those can at least be challenges before you get Tennessee and Norman to open SEC play. What else you got for us, Brent?
Yeah, yeah. My last note will be Jamari Lyons, defensive lineman at Florida, breaking an ankle
Mm.
out for the year. Lyons was a real leader for them. Tough injury. Montrell Johnson, I understand, is running well, going straight ahead. But you and I both know, Trav, in this league, you got to cut a little bit. So we don't know about that. And as far as the Lions thing, to dovetail with that, Billy Napier talking this week. I'm sure this didn't make Pops happy either. In their latest scrimmage, missing 20 tackles. Now, in fairness, it was 122 snaps, which is almost 2 games. But look, you and I see a pattern here already. They've got to be able to run the ball. And they really need Montrell Johnson back as fast as they can. They've got Jaden Baugh, Trevion Webb at running back. I think that's going to help them. But after last year's abysmal performance on defense, Trav, they've got to replace Lyons as quick as they can. Easily running back in that D line, question marks and concerns for the Gators.
Yeah, with the way the Gators want to play on offense, you need Montrell,
Yes.
especially with Trevor Etienne up in Athens now. Now, I think Webb, Ball, some of those guys can be solid initially, perhaps even more so as the season goes along, give you more. Um, but you might be able to argue at this point, with as bad as that defense was a year ago, it's more of a blow if you lose a true high-end rotational defensive
Yeah,
lineman
true.
right now for a significant period of time. You need both. That's kind of the situation. Again, with how Florida wants to play on offense and then where they need to really come from on the defensive side of the ball. Well, Brent, as always, you knocked it out of the park with the notebook. We love the notebook. That's just a few nuggets from that
Oh,
notebook, by the
just
way.
one or two.
Yeah,
Travel. We need a quick Pomps update. Is he any more optimistic along this line? Anything with golf and your YouTube channel that we can know about?
Yeah, we did a golf walk and football talk here on the channel a few days back, and we got into best defensive lines in the SEC. I'd like to get your thoughts on that coming up on
Yes.
another edition of Second Helping. And we talked about these running back injuries and just the overview of the importance of guys like Owens and Baxter and depth in offenses like Texas's and Texas A&M's and places like Alabama, Georgia. We pretty much have talked about running backs with all those
Mhm.
places. So it's kind of where it's at right now here on Reier on YouTube. And as always, we appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. And Brent, thanks again, my man. We'll do it again real soon.
Can't wait, bud. Take care. Have a great weekend.
For Brent Beaird, Travis Reier, thanking you once again and reminding you, if you haven't subscribed to Reier on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our content as it drops. For Brent, I'm Travis. Thanks again. Until next time, so long, everybody.